Before I kick off, guys, I just want to say a massive thanks to James and to Sophie for putting on another amazing event. I've already learned so much from a really, really cool lineup of speakers, some really cool stories, some really cool pro tips here and there. So just hoping I can add my 2 cents here. What I'm going to speak to you guys about today, as Sophie mentioned, 2 challenges that I've seen super prevalent, especially within the ADR function, pretty much throughout my entire career within sales and sales development. So the first challenge that I want to kind of dig into is burnout. What is burnout, right? So as of now, burnout is defined as the exhaustion of physical or emotional strength, usually as a result of a prolonged stress or frustration, right? And the ADR role, the SDR role, whatever you guys might call it, is stressful. It is frustrating, right? You've got targets to hit. You've got KPIs to hit on a quarterly, monthly, weekly basis. You've got people to chase. You can't always control your controllables. It gets frustrating, right? So that's challenge number 1 that I want to kind of dig into. Challenge number 2 is high performance expectations. I mean, even, having 200 people on this call right now speaks for itself. 5 years ago, how many SDRs were there around globally? Probably in the hundreds, right? So the industry is exploding. Your products, your markets are getting saturated. Targets are going up, right? So putting together burnout together with high performance expectations, quite a dangerous combination, right? So today I just kind of want to speak about how I've dealt with it in my past. I've dealt with it in a professional burnout sense. And by no means is there one golden bullet or a one size fits all. But the way that I kind of took to it is I try to drive consistent execution, right? And by now I'm sure half of you guys are rolling your eyes and you're like, oh yeah, Charlotte, like if I could, if it was that easy to drive consistent execution, if it was that easy to hit my target consistently, like I would do it, right? Trust me. So how do I start driving consistent execution, right? How do you get the ball rolling? The way that I got the ball rolling was the 1% better every day rule, right? So I said to myself, hey, small steps, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. If I am 1% better every single day, I'm going to end up 37 times better within a 1-year time period. And that's a fact, right? So 1% better every day means you're 37 times better within 1 year, 365 days a year. What's the average ADR time span? 1 to 2 years. Imagine the difference that could make if you pushed yourself 1% every day, right? So sorry to say there's no magic formula if that's what you were hoping for. At least I don't know if any of you know any, let me know. I'd love to hear it as well. But how did I, back in the day, how did I drive that 1% better every day, right? So there's 3 steps that I want to focus on and some kind of hopefully gold nuggets in between for you guys to use as well. So the first thing I did is understanding my strengths, right? Hey, what am I really good at? Am I good at cold calling? Am I good at emailing? Is it videos? Is it voice notes? Where do most of my SQLs right now that I'm creating come from, right? So let's say you've created 10 SQLs this month or 10 opportunities, whatever you call it. Where did they come from? What was the source? Was it marketing, cold calling, emailing? Nothing. Don't do anything with that data. Just know that it exists, right? Once you figure that out, take a step back and just say, hey, ballpark, how much time am I spending on all of these items, right? How much time on a daily basis am I cold calling? Am I spending on emails? Am I sending videos, right? Again, don't do anything with it, but just be aware, right? Of, okay, this is what you're doing. And if you don't have any structure right now, if you're hitting your target with working 2 hours a day, that's fine, right? But just bucket it, put your thoughts on a paper. Once you've done that, start to compare that to industry averages, right? So if it's taking you as of now 50 videos to convert into 1 discovery call, but the industry average says, hey, should probably only take you 15 or 20, totally fine, right? That's an area of development for you. Just jot it down, right? So step number one, understand your strength and understand your areas of development, right? Once you've done that, or what I did was build out my schedule and stuck to it, right? That is the toughest part by far for this 1% rule, is not building a schedule, but sticking to it, right? Like, let's say you're going on a lunch break, it's summer, it's nice out in the UK, pretend maybe you had a glass of rosé, you come back, the next thing on your schedule is a 1-hour prospecting session, right? Like, no one wants to do that, but I promise you, if you build it out in the right mindset, to hold yourself accountable, do the work that needs to be done, it's really good for the long run, right? So when you're building out your schedule, what I thought I'd do, I'd give a couple of tips of what worked really well for me. 4 of them. So the first one is what we call at high spot and on the fly, right? So prospects right now are busier than ever, right? That's no secret. So 2 ways to do on the fly. So one is you're cold calling someone rather than asking time to schedule a discovery call, which is an additional step before you pass something along to the AE. Try to qualify them right then and there, right? So, hey, James, I caught you out of the blue. Do you have 30 seconds for me to tell you why I'm calling? Do your opener, ask for the time, right? Get them hooked. And once they've accepted your calendar invite, first thing, say, hey, just before I let you go, so we can make the next conversation as relevant as possible, how many people do you have on your team, right? Or what tools are you currently using? Qualify there so that you don't have an extra step. So that hard-fought diary time that you have right now isn't utilized discoing again, right? So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, put in public time for balance, right? Put in some time that says, hey, this is my 2 hours a day. This is an hour a day where I'm going to be out for a walk, right? Don't be ashamed to say, hey, don't contact me, I'm out for work. If that's good for your soul, if that's going to put you in the right mindset to be as productive as possible when you come back to achieve all of your other laid out activities, totally fine. Do it that way, right? Tip number 3, one of my favorites, best practices, right? So 2 types of best practices. One is obviously with top performers on a weekly basis. What most of the speakers said before me as well, what worked yesterday might not work today. We just heard is what worked yesterday might not work today, right? So if last week cold calling worked really well, but this week one of your colleagues is smashing it out doing videos, set up a best practice session, right? Put that time in the diary that just to kind of go through, hey, what's working, what's not working. And my personal second favorite, I'll get to my favorite after this, is holding yourself accountable, right? Backwards engineer your targets. If it's quarterly, hey, what's my monthly? What's my weekly target, right? If by Wednesday afternoon, you realize, hey, I'm pacing behind my weekly target right now, or I'm starting to, super small, not a problem. Put in some time with your manager, put in a best practice session to try and nip it in the bud as early as possible, rather than it getting to the end of the week and you saying, oh, should have maybe done that, right? So be accountable, hold yourself accountable and take charge of your time. And lastly, my favorite is add goals to your sessions, right? All good and well if you put in an hour prospecting session. Even better if you say, hey, at the beginning of the week, during this session on Tuesday after lunch, during my 1 hour prospecting session, I want to find 30 people with a direct dial based in the Americas, right? Or whatever your criteria might be, so that you hold yourself accountable to, okay, this is what this time is for, and this is what I'm going to strive to and try to focus on, right? Rather than saying, okay, fine, I guess I'll prospect, and by the end of an hour, you got 3 or 4 prospects, fine, right? That's fine, but hold yourself accountable, put a higher standard in there. Last but not least, step number 3, let's tie it all together with the 1% rule. Add 1%, right? So let's say you're just about, you shut your laptop, you've had a really good day or you've had a really bad day, you want to head off to the pint, you've got plans. I would encourage you guys to just put in those 15 or 20 minutes at the end of the day to make those literally like 10 extra calls or 10 extra emails, 10 extra videos, whatever it might be, to push yourself, right? Statistically speaking, every 27 cold calls right now gives you 1 discovery call, right? So if you did 10 more calls within 10 to 15 minutes every day, that's 1.5 more discovery calls a week, right? That adds up. If you hold that up, that adds up. That can get you to target. That can get you to overachieve, right? So just add, once you've mapped out your schedule, 15, 20 extra minutes a day where you start to push yourself, right? So now what we've got, okay, you know your strength, you've built and mapped out your schedule accordingly, and you've put in that extra little push every day, right? So, and I'll leave you with one of my favorite analogies that kind of does all of this. I'd love to know right now how many people on this meeting have either iPhones or Samsungs. Wild guess, it's probably quite a lot of you. When I was growing up, it was the cool thing to have, right? Was Motorola's or Nokia's, Blackberries. And the businesses back at the time thought, hey guys, like, kick back, right? Relax, like business is booming. I don't need to do anything else. Blink of an eye, Apple comes along, cool smartphone features, touch screen, iMessage, and suddenly those companies have lost pretty much the entirety of their market share, right? And now what you've got is that rather than making a change when you're up here, they've gone down here just like an ADR, super normal. Everyone goes through the dips, right? So now they're down here, and guess what? They have to work 4, 6, 8 times harder to just get back up there than if they would have just said, okay, I'm going well, what can we improve for the future, right? And it's the same with the ADR role. To avoid burnout, essentially, what do you do? Mix it up, keep your mind rolling, add 1% every day, work a little bit more every day rather than leaving it too late and then being like, okay, now I have to work the entirety of the day and I need to work, through the hours. It's not feasible. It's not healthy. So I'd encourage you guys, just before you want to shut your laptop, just think, if I make 10 more calls now, even if they're all bad calls, at least you can qualify out, right? Just that little extra bit of push. And key takeaways, right? So if hopefully you guys, took a little like kind of key nuggets there and there. If I had to break it down into 5, understand your strength versus industry best practices, make goals for your sessions, build out a schedule, and allow time for you, right? Like don't be ashamed to put in, hey, I'm out for a walk, or hey, I'm at a gym class. That's great. If that helps you, food for thought, that's amazing. Do that. Go the extra mile when things are going well, not when they're not. And hopefully it goes without saying, guys, but if you feel burnout, ask for help, right? We all go through it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But that's it. So hopefully there were some little tips and tricks for you guys. If you've got any questions, obviously feel free to reach out. If you can't find my contact details, you might be in the wrong role, but feel free to find me on LinkedIn and connect.